The thing that's always I've always wondered with MMOs is because it's so hard to go backwards and cater to like a super hardcore crowd, because people always say they want these things, and then it goes back to that classic Blizzard thing where they've always been saying that you say you want this, but you don't really want this. But on the other hand, it's really hard to cater to an entire just hardcore base, because it's actually a very niche audience that actually wants that super sweaty experience where you're gonna have in EverQuest I describe it to people where Epic Quest need you to go find a mob that spawns once every 3 days at a random interval of 8 hours with no hints, and you might spend the next month of your life trying to do that one thing. But when you do it, it's super satisfying and it's a really fun experience when you look back on it. But at the time, most people aren't going to go through that intensive process to get to the fun part at the end. So it's the question of whether it's even viable to cater to like a super hardcore audience if they wanted to do Classic Plus.
I mean, I think Blizzard has learned firsthand, because even doing Classic was appealing to people who said they wanted something, and they're like, you don't really want this, right? There were people who were playing on private servers for so long, people saying they wanted this game, and Blizzard is, I think, kind of woken up to the idea that this is the player base that really is the people they should be appealing to. The people who love the classic era Blizzard games. It's why they're redoing Diablo 2. It's why they're doing TBC. Like, people say they want these things to Blizzard, and Blizzard, and other companies, rightfully so, go like, you don't really want this. You say you want this, but you don't really want this. You want Diablo Immortal. Like, that does not work out for you. So when you listen to your fan base who actually know what they're talking about and actually know what they want, because these are adults, because you've kind of raised this generation, I say you listen to them. Like, when they say they want something and you give it to them, they're going to be happy. It's what's happening with TBC now, where they're doing changes to things, right? Where they're making changes potentially to drums. They're making changes to things that were frustrating systems. And so I think that's a win when you listen to your core audience. And I'll use two different examples here. Is kind of how I learned about fandoms is, when you're appealing to a fandom, you either have the Star Trek or the Star Wars approach. The Star Wars approach is you appeal to everybody, regardless of what's going on. You try to appeal to all fans and try to bring every person in. The Star Trek approach is you only appeal to the hardcore fan, the Trekkies, and then they go out and they preach it for you. So you have to do less marketing, but you do directly appeal to those people. You don't water down your product at all, and you only have to get those people on board, and then they love it so much and they feel like they're taken care of, they're listened to, that you do a lot of great things for them as a company, and they continue to be a fan, and then they'll go preach the gospel of Star Trek to other people. So there's two approaches there, and I think Blizzard is better suited to do the Star Trek approach at this point, because these are games that have already been released in the past, and you know how effective they are. You've already caught that audience that you were going to catch. Might as well invest in them again and double down, because you've already caught them once 15 years ago, and you're just recapturing them. So that's how I think they should approach it.
Interesting. So, the other question really is do they do it at the same time? If they go through with this, do they do it at the same time as TBC? Because would it be dangerous to do it at the same time? Or would it be fine if they just did it for maybe one or two servers and just concentrated that really hardcore player base that really wants that into those two servers?
I think the problem that they're going to face is that TBC has to release at the same time as like classic era servers, because they're not forcing everybody to get onto the TBC server, right? They've already said that they're going to have the servers, right? But I think if you just don't do anything and you just continue with my 60 is sitting there, not in TBC while everyone else is, then there's no reason to have that 60, right? People will just kind of let it rot, or they'll wish they had transferred it over. And that's why I don't know how they're going to execute on this. If I were them, I think I would have just pushed people to TBC and then would have had a select few servers that are going to be just classic and Naxxramas at the end, and that's where your 60 goes. And then I'd have fresh servers, and they'd be like potentially the new content servers. But I think you could like go through the phases again, and then eventually you announce that you're releasing new Classic Plus stuff for everybody. But the problem is if you have fresh servers going through phases again, you can't really do Classic Plus stuff until those servers are done and enacts again. So they're in a tricky situation where I'm not sure how they're going to handle it if they do Classic Plus. I think it's becoming harder and harder for them to actually find a way to do it effectively and have fresh servers. So I think they're either going to have to appeal to the fresh server people or the Classic Plus people. And I think Classic Plus is going to be the way they go, or I think it's the way they should go.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about the fact that they have to run two consecutive. If they wanted to do it separately, they have to run Classic Plus and they'd have to run that fresh server at the same time. And that's always been a disaster in previous MMOs when we tried to do that, because one server always gets killed by it. And like one's just more popular, and everyone starts picking that server as the popular server, and then the other one's just gonna die. That's just how it turns out.
And that's the thing about MMOs is like the population is very much so in control of how people's enjoyment of the game is, right? That's kind of sometimes the beauty of massively multiplayer online games is everyone else affects your enjoyment in some degree. And there's like dead servers where people have like Alliance 60s and there's like nobody in Stormwind. Like it's like completely dead. And obviously they aren't going to enjoy the game or even have like one raid team on the whole server. So if that happens with those servers, then obviously they're kind of dead. You'd have to offer like transfers and things like that, which I guess is another opportunity to make money. But
I mean, the problem in the past is that Blizzard has always, especially at the start of brand new server lives, they always said, "Hey, guys, if you don't want that 12-hour queue like you have on Whitemane, just roll on this new server that we have." And everyone always says the same thing. But if I roll on that new server, won't it be dead later on? And then I won't have anyone to play with. And then it sure enough, the problem is it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy where it really does become dead later on, and then they have to figure out some sort of solution later on. And Blizzard hasn't always been the fastest when it comes to merging servers when they need to and such. So sometimes people are just stuck on those rounds for a long time after
like,
population is dead. Yeah.